weeks ago, I asked you all, what would you like to see in an upcoming episode here in the expansion room? And 67% of you who voted asked for an episode on getting unstuck. Last week, that episode aired, Getting Unstuck, a psychospiritual approach to breaking free. And I hope you have gotten a chance to listen or watch. Now, it is time to go deeper into that topic. If you are ready to get unstuck, I invite you to join me for my upcoming free live masterclass on the same topic, Getting Unstuck, a psychospiritual approach to breaking free. By the end of this masterclass, you will be able to name the specific root that is holding you back and to understand how the scarcity wound and belief are connected to your stuckness. You will experience a live somatic regulation practice and a complete rewriting exercise on identity. You will leave this masterclass with 2 embodied daily practices that you can use in your life and clear next steps towards the life that you really want. So join me next Thursday, July 16th at 6 p.m. Eastern. You will find the registration link in the show notes. See you there. We talk a fair bit on this podcast about stepping out of the false identity into your true identity so that you can have a greater impact in the world. And so what do you do when you are the person who used to be the one who did this kind of work, helped these kinds of folks, and doing so, and there's a shift or a drift within you where you start to see yourself maybe as a stranger to the person that you used to be, not because of failure or because of tragedy, but somewhere between all the roles that you're playing and responsibilities, there's a drift away from yourself. So today, my guest is David Allen Brown. He's an author, a motivational speaker, and he's been teaching personal development and empowerment, leadership organization, and self-discovery, along with spirituality, to audiences across the country for more than 30 years. And so he is going to share his story and his work with us today. David, welcome to the Expansion Room.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit about your backstory. What was your life like before the drift, as we'll call it?
I don't. Empowered is almost the best word. You know, I was the youngest in a blended family of means, upper middle class, Midwestern suburb of a city. There wasn't, we were a blended family, but there wasn't a lot of strife aside from, 6 kids in a household. But I was well taken care of, and there's something special about being the youngest. Pros and cons, of course, but one of the pros is you really are sort of coddled and cared for and nurtured and seen as there's just a lot of protectors in the room that are taking care of you. And one of the things that does, because one of the cons, but also an opportunity, is you're also sometimes just left to your own devices too. That sense of, everybody's busy and they're doing middle school things while you're in elementary school and the rest. Mm-hmm. But the combination is interesting. And the way I took it was, okay, so I'm beloved and sort of powerful in a way. People at least tell me that I am, and I'm a good guy and this and that. And I'm going to have to make this work. And so that kind of led to me sort of taking care of myself, and not in terms of having to scruff it out, but just as far as gaining a confidence. I can do this, and I should do this, and I can be at home on a Friday because I'm only 10, and make popcorn or get myself dinner because everybody else is gone. And then as I got older, that sense of, I can find my place and be supportive of others. And it was just kind of a trickle down of, you got this.
Yeah.
That was compounded in school because rather than go to like soccer camp or to cheerleading camp, I went to leadership camp, which it's an actual thing. And I was elected into student government and was invited to go to a program that was kind of a leadership training. It was designed to empower young people to make a difference in their communities. But what I realize now, and as I did that all 4 years in high school, and then by the time I was going late, I went to like 3 in one summer.
Wow.
What I caught was, okay, yeah, they're teaching me skills like public speaking or working with authority or creating a message, but really so much of it was about the interpersonal and about getting to know other people and recognizing your strength, but not just that, recognizing the strength in other people as well. We were taught psychological safety before we even knew what that meant. We were taught respect and kindness and appreciation for different points of view, just as a natural part of being a good leader. Those lessons, among many others, really instilled in me that not only do I appreciate the role of, leader or making a difference or doing cool things, but I really love the role of teacher and helping other people realize what they can accomplish. And so that's what I started to do. I went off to college to be rich and famous. I went to film school. I thought, oh, good, I'll do that. But then I got drawn right back into those same leadership and heartfelt notions and went after college back to do that and did that for a number of years. And then a little later, spirituality I was actually speaking at a conference in St. Louis to a young crowd of high schoolers. They were at a similar conference to what I had been at for years. And there was a graffiti wall there. People could, they put paper up for kids to just write all sorts of different things. And someone had written something about unconditional love and universal kindness and the rest. And offhand, while I was speaking, I referenced that I had read that. And I didn't even know that I was going to do that. But immediately I felt chill. I felt that sense of knowing that comes across us sometimes. And I realized that I was resonating with that because it meant so much to what I believed and what my faith was, and the energy, the larger energy of unconditional love and the way we express that with each other. So in that moment, I knew, because I was told, because I was aware, oh, this level, that's really what I'm supposed to teach, the ability to be unconditionally loving and the difference it makes in their lives. And so that's what I began to do additionally. And so this all was before I was 27 or 8 years old. I was trucking along, teaching the good word in whatever way I could. And sometimes that was very secular, like in a school, and sometimes it was much more direct, like in a progressive congregation or something like that.
Yeah. Nice. And so it's almost like you found your calling super young.
I kind of felt that way at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so trace back to the moment or the season in your life where that connection to yourself, who you are, and what you knew you were meant to be doing in the world began to fade or loosen.
Mm-hmm. I started to recognize that in order to function in the world, you have to figure out how to create a business out of what you do. And I was very torn internally on leaning into the commercial aspects of being a spiritual leader. And I both wanted to be appreciated and have prosperity based on where my talents were and where my calling was. But I was also quite reticent to put myself out there as any sort of expert or professional. My degree was in fine arts. I wasn't leading a church. I didn't get ordained. I never did. Well, I did online to help to marry a couple once, but I wasn't. I kind of wasn't doing anything traditionally. And so I really began to just recognize that, well, how am I going to do this and make a living at it? And especially as I neared 30, and I thought, look at how these traditional jobs provide regular income and healthcare and opportunities to meet people in different ways and to be a little more traditional and have weekends off. It's just that sort of allure of just life, of just, hey, what might I do here that makes a little more sense? Yeah. And at that same time, I had written my first book, and I had partnered with a PR person and who was sort of agenting me out and helping me find bookings, and all of it kind of fell apart at the same time, just not really following through the way I thought it would, and certainly not in a way that was that could provide prosperity for me. And then, of course, I fell in love and wanted to get married and have a household. And so, all of these are wise decisions, very natural for us in our in our lifetimes and in the culture in which we live. I think it's maybe part of why this episode may be a little different than others, because rather than there being some big twist or turning point or event or tragedy, these might be choices that people recognize as everyday things that people do, and they're not bad by any means. But that was the beginning of a sense of, okay, maybe I'm not going to be able to sustain what may have been my calling. And so that's really where the turn starts to happen, one way or the other.
Okay. So through a series of decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So let's think about and talk about what the drift away from, we'll call it your calling, actually began to cost you. Right, over time, because I imagine this was not, you made a decision to pivot here and then everything shifted all at once.
Right. Yeah.
But there's some time that goes by.
Yeah.
Right. And
yeah,
so what did that shift cost you?
I mean, in the end, it almost cost me everything. And that's the thing about time, is that that slow erosion eventually gets to a point where the truth is exposed or something gets very raw. And I think that, how do we want to say it? Because, first of all, I became a stay-at-home dad, which was a wonder and a delight. And I was very, very proud of that work, and I was glad to do it. And being in a non-traditional role means that, a lot of those support systems that are there weren't there. Okay. Even as simple as being a father who takes their child to the playground. There's a different social. There's a little side eye that the mothers give you when you're the dad that's there. It's just not quite the same social network. And even in the relationship, that notion of of husband and wife roles more traditional. Okay, well, we weren't that, but that didn't mean we knew what we should be. We didn't have that sort of background to say, oh, well, then this is the support you need, or this is how this would work in this way, because we were kind of inventing it. So there were a lot of just empty spaces there. And some of these, I want to absolutely cop to, were compounded by my own dysfunction. I carried around a really strong Superman complex for a while. So the notion that nobody was there for me that's fine, because I can do all this myself, because I'm a superhero and I like being a superhero, and that's why I'd like to be. Who doesn't want to be Superman? Yeah. Right. And then eventually I realized, well, people love it when Superman swoops in to save the day, but nobody's really asking him what he's doing for dinner later. He returns to a literal fortress of solitude. That's where he lives, and then nobody minds. well, I'm not Superman. And that sort of mentality, I mean, that was one of the things I lost. I lost true intimacy. I lost the ability to really develop friendships, to find a support network. And simultaneously, I was convincing myself, well, I don't need that. But yeah, that's not really it either. Now, I was still writing and speaking from time to time, but I wasn't practicing the integration of my spirit and my faith into the work that I did because I thought that was separate. Oh, that when I write and teach, that's when I'm doing that work. But when I'm doing other things, I'm too busy or I'm too distracted or whatever. So that was a huge loss, losing my practice of faith, losing the integration of spirit into my life. Didn't even know that was going out the window really until later because I thought I could convince myself, well, I'm doing the work. I mean, I'm reading the books so that I can teach them and speak, and I am showing up, and I love teaching, and and I could see the light bulbs popping on, so I must be doing the work, except I wasn't internally. So that was a big, long slide into imposter syndrome and really a lack of faith, because I thought I was manifesting all this stuff and it's not. So, okay, I'll be happy with what I've got, but, hemming and hawing, that's not me being my authentic manifesting self.
Yeah. And it sounds like that practice of compartmentalizing, where you were not integrating the work that you were offering to other people, continued to cost you.
Yeah, that's a very insightful comment. I think that word really applies. And that was the way a lot of things were happening in my life, relationships and self-identity and professional and being a dad. And then when some of those things peel away, I did have loss in my life. I lost my mom when I was in my late 30s. She and I were very, very close. I was the father of her only grandchild at that point. We saw each other every day. And so that was major. And that was a major block to how I lived my life, that then had been pulled out of the castle, so to speak. And so, yeah, there were many, many parts of it. And I think that's the intriguing thing about the story, is that so often when we're ready for change, we want to be able to just put our finger on it. Oh, it's that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's that. And other times I had to start from a completely different place, which wasn't what could I fix. It was what do I believe? What have I taught myself? What have I compartmentalized? But worse, what have I led myself to believe that has put me into this cycle, into this place? And so that's harder work. And I think that if your listeners who are recognizing that in themselves, I can only say, well, don't let that be a barrier. Let it be a starting point, because it can be an even more effective place to rebuild, going really to those truths about, what patterns, what fundamental thoughts am I having? What have I let go of? That's when I went to a good therapist at last. I'd been to some therapists, but I finally found a good one. That's where we started. And I made the agreement that I would stop trying to BS my therapist or say what I wanted to say in hopes to hear what I wanted to hear. Nope. Full disclosure, authenticity. Let's get it all out there. And
there it is.
let's start from how I'm feeling and what I think is true, and go from there.
What made you finally move to seeking therapy?
Well, we talked about how the erosion can eventually get us to an extremely raw point. And though I didn't even diagnose it at that time, I was obviously severely depressed. And for me, I think part of why I was confused or reluctant was it's still very, very high functioning and functioning a lot every day. And I had this misnomer that some people carry that, depression is sadness.
Yes.
And I came to understand that that wasn't the case for me at all. Depression for me was numbness. I wasn't feeling anything, not elation or joy, but also not sadness or anger. I was just numb.
Yeah. That is
And I
so key for
yeah.
people to really hear, because it doesn't look like sadness for most people.
And it's depicted that way sometimes,
It
or
is.
and even just that word depression, which
Mm-hmm.
seems to be like it would be heavy feelings, but
Yeah.
almost if you took it as a more literal definition, it's almost like you're squashed, like everything about you is squashed. It's pressed down,
Yeah.
and that's very much how I felt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then for me, that the turning point on that is, I mean, I know I don't want to feel that way. It's not pleasant, and depression for me turned to despair when the question from within or even without was so what would make you feel better, and then and I don't know, and that's when it starts to get scary. There's not. I'll always feel like this. It won't get better.
Mm-hmm.
This is what life is, and I hate it. And so when I started to have serious suicidal ideation beyond, maybe this isn't worth it, to, oh, this is what I could do. I recognized that my daughter is a neurodivergent, and we've worked, I've been in the mental health arena for a long time. I knew that was a significant warning sign. And that's when I turned to someone and said, do you know any good therapists in town?
Okay. Yeah. Something that you shared about your experience with depression reminds me of the fact that a lot of people, but particularly men, miss the cues of depression, because they're not necessarily naming that it feels like sadness, right?
And
Yeah.
because I think, I'm going to follow this vein without generalizing too much, because I think for me and for men, so much of success is based on outcome. So
Absolutely.
if you're producing, if you're showing up, if the results are still there, if, all those things, then people tend to think you're okay. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I mean, my house ran great. My kids were in and out of all the activities. I showed up at every single thing. I was on time to pick them up. I made their appointment. I mean, and I cooked 5 meals a week. And then still had a party. Like it certainly appears as if David's fine because look at all he's getting done.
Yeah.
Whether you're a homemaker like me, or you have a career or an office or a construction site,
Mm-hmm.
if you're showing up, people tend to, men especially, not say, so how do you feel about what you're doing? They just say, good job, what you did.
Yep. That's it. That's all.
Yeah. So yeah.
And in that space, I think too many people lose touch with themselves and who they are, right? It's like our society is built on production, and you're only as good as what you've produced lately.
Right.
And so as long as you're still producing, you lose touch even more with who you really are.
Right.
That numbness disconnects you completely.
Precisely because that's not who we are.
Right.
And that's a huge leap in personal development, and especially in spiritual development.
Yes.
I mean, because it goes all the way from the most fundamental things to I'm not my thoughts, that's a tough one, to the grandest thing, I'm not my checkbook, or I'm not this building that I built, or I'm not this title on my card. And all of those things, to strip any of those away at any level can be terrifying, can be frightening, because it brings up the question, well, then who am I?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, no, I think I'll just go to work tomorrow instead of going to therapy.
Yeah.
That's shoot, man. Yeah, I'm good. It'll work out.
That's usually the word I hear. I'm good.
I'm good.
There's nothing wrong with me.
Exactly. And you know what? That's part of what I was fleeing from was I looked around and saw a lot of folks who once I could recognize it, maybe they weren't clinically where I was, but they were settled. They were just fine. They didn't need to look any deeper, or think any harder, or wonder anymore, or get angry about the way the world was. Right there, I'm good, and good is good. Good is enough. But I wasn't good. I wasn't okay, and I had to look at all the different things that might mean.
Absolutely. There's so much courage in what you just shared, and it gives people the knowing or the understanding that seeking help is not the end of the story. It is the doorway, basically, right?
Yes, absolutely.
When you step into that doorway and you cross that threshold, there's so much expansion that can come from that space, right?
Yeah.
Of reclaiming your inner voice, as you talk about.
Well, and I think it's super important that we start there because the daunting notion of, oh, how much is this going to hurt, or how hard is this, or how long is this going to take, or what changes, that's part of it, because the likely result is going to require change, which is scary in itself. And so there's so many reasons to think, I don't want to do that, I'm good. And let's start with what is the joy, the elation, the victory of living when we're doing it with true actualization, when we're doing it with authenticity, when we're answering the call, when we're experiencing what our divine purpose is and enacting that in the world. And so there isn't a way to put that on a reel or to show that in your social media. It's something that you experience bit by bit, little ray of light by little ray of light, but it just draws you forward. And when you're in it, like, you just know, even during the hardest times, even during what I used to call bad emotions that I didn't want to feel. But when you haven't felt anything for a decade, when you start to feel again, even anger is thrilling. Like, sadness is wonderful. Like, you just like, okay, these are feelings. Yeah.
Right. Like, I'm alive.
Right, I'm alive. And that's the thing. It's so, and it's glorious. It's glorious. And that's what I want to remind people at wherever you are in your journey. Like, it's so worth it. It's so worth it.
Yeah. I love how your life's experience then moved you into greater expansion into the work that you were offering into the world. And the way that you stepped into your true identity and owned it, right? So let's talk about this reclaiming your inner voices and how you then brought that into your work.
Okay. Yeah, right. Because, because I've always been a teacher, and I've written books about, my first book is kind of spiritual theory. My second book was very much about my experience of applying what I believed is, and when faith is involved in my mom's battle with cancer. And now I've written a third book, which is just a manuscript right now. And I really didn't want to write it. And I was like, I'm just kind of resistant to the whole thing. It kept coming into my head. And it's memoir. And I thought, well, me, the main character, I don't know. And, what's this all about? But I came to realize, and I appreciate you saying this, that, this current chapter that I'm in really is the culmination of my life's work. And I mean that everywhere from the work that I've done, the speaking and the teaching, but also the work that I've done to be a good person and raise a family, the work that I've done to be a member of the community, and then finally the work I've done to actually become actualized in myself.
Yeah.
And I was really fortunate because of what we talked about at the beginning. I didn't have to sit in front of my therapist and say, who am I or what should I be? I was able to remember back to a time when I was like, oh, right, I remember that guy. And I liked him. Like he was all right. And so it was kind of, it was difficult. It was one thing at a time. It started from the foundation of that I'm worthy, that I'm lovable. It really took rebuilding some of the most fundamental things. I have needs and wants. Really just getting back to those foundational understandings of who I, as a human being and a child of God, am entitled to. And I think that that's a good reminder for the listeners. If you're not to those simple places of self-discovery and love, of creative expansionness, of appreciation and worthiness, start there. And it was only once I even opened the door to that, I wouldn't even say I mastered that by any means, opened the door to that, that I started to reclaim some of the tools that I had had as a younger person. And one of those tools that you're asking about is I had known in high school, maybe even before, that I could intellectually have two sides of a conversation. That I could, and everybody does this, ask yourself, what do I feel like eating today? And then who answers? We have the capability of recognizing different aspects of what's going on around us.
Yeah.
And as we become more spiritually masterful, we become better and better at separating ourselves from, as I was saying before, the incidents that happen around us, or the things that we covet, or eventually even the ideas that pop into our mind. So we begin to look at them in a more analytical way, a more holistic way. And that's really one side of that's one of the voices that I began to reclaim immediately. But early on, I'm an overthinker. I'm past president emeritus of the Overthinkers Club. Like, I just thought it was about thinking. I just thought it was about figuring out. Oh, if I just, and that's in a way kind of what therapy was early on. Well, let's just figure this out. And then finally, when I broke down and cried in therapy, I was like, oh, wait, there might be other steps. So I moved past the thinking part into this beautiful understanding we have, especially now in neuroscience and in personal care, and that's that action dictates mood. And so this really became about the doing part, which I recognize all the way back to the days of earlier. I have to function. I have to have an income. I have to feed myself. I have to, all we need is love and a cheeseburger. There's a thing. I'm a person. I'm functioning. Yeah. So I started to get into, well, maybe if I tried this, maybe if I tried that. Now, recognize that by this point, I'm on my way to a divorce. So I've got this giant hole in my resume. How am I going to sustain myself? What sort of career will I have? Where will I live? I mean, everything's changing.
Yeah.
Well, let me just do a couple things at a time, see how it feels. And that was the moment. Just in that simple, let me just see how this feels. One of the most empowering mantras I had was, instead of saying yes or no to anything, invitation, movie later, I said, let me just see how I feel. It's like, wait, I've never done that before. I always had to decide before. I always had to know before. I couldn't rely on this second voice, which is this incredible, instinctual, beautiful, chemical, body developed thing that we are on this planet, which gives us so much feedback all of the time if we're paying attention. And
absolutely.
The sudden bouts of sadness, the enthusiasms, the joys, all the full range of emotion, each of which is a gift that can lead to so many things that we could then do. And so now these two parts are talking to each other. Well, how do I feel about that? Well, let's give it a try. Yeah, let's try it. I feel okay enough to try that. And then we evaluate. Oh, well, I didn't really get much out of that. Oh, okay, but that felt really good. Okay, so there's just a little bit of synchronicity happening there. And that's good. And I'm feeling a little more powerful. Like it's gonna, I can do this. And that's a nice place to step into.
Yeah.
So that felt good for a while. And I was flailing a little bit. Some things weren't working out. And there were definite what I call, just anxiety moments, about money in particular. I just get this acid dump. Oh my God, how am I going to survive? And then I'd have to, okay, I get that. And then this wonderful thing happened, and this is the true story of it all. And so, in a very post-divorce type of thing that happens, I went on vacation to southern Florida, and I had a great time. And I ended up having this little, I kind of did a little fall in love thing, like over like 3 minutes. I had this little fling, and it was really amazing. Like it was just, all the emotions. Remember talking? So this is like through the roof. I'm on vacation and we're having this great time and there's no cares in the world and I'm spending money like I don't care. So it was just this great high. So I come back to the Midwest and it's middle of winter, it's gray. When about 3 days later, like the dude part of me is like, it's just angry and frustrated and why are we here, and that was so stupid and that wasn't real, and how do you possibly think that could have happened, and you're too old and there's no way they were into you, that's just dumb, just let it go. And the emotional part of me is buying into all of this, like just believing and just like getting just squeezed by it. Just felt like being punched. Every kind of mean thought that was coming to my mind, there was just a lot of anger, mostly just fear, just speaking up, unregulated. And so now I'm just curled up almost in a ball. I don't know what to do. And then this beautiful, I remember it was clear as a bell, and just right in my head. And all of a sudden there was this little hello, and everything stopped. Everything stopped, and the whole thing. And I just heard this, I'm here. And I was like, wait. And then the next phrase was, and I've got you. And that was a emotional phrase for me. It has a connection with my son and my kids. This I've got you. I used to kind of cradle them and hold them and say that. And so I knew that it was both within, but it was the voice of just complete and pure compassion. And it just it enveloped that emotional side and said, you know what, everything you're feeling right now is exactly what you should be feeling, and you're loved and it's okay. It enveloped that angry, frustrated, fearful side and said, you know what, I understand how bizarre and strange this seems to you, and everything is okay and it's going to be okay. And I know that to be absolute and true. And that was the moment in which the third major component of our human experience re-entered my life, and that's that of Holy Spirit, unconditional love, divine energy, whatever you want to call it, higher power. I'm not starting a church. You name it, whatever it is for you. And suddenly, there was a foundation to the emotion and the experience of my body and the action and the call of culture and the world that we live in. And it was this beautiful beacon of purpose and meaning and faith and absolute knowing and knowledge and wisdom, and above all things, unconditional love. And the first place that became real for me was within. All of a sudden, I knew that was within me. And it's those three primary voices that I believe all of us have, all of us can recognize, and that we can integrate together. Remember that conversation we were having before about, well, should I try this? Well, how does that feel? Well, I don't know. Let's give it a... And now there's this third voice that says, well, what would be your intention when you try that? Are you acting out of the best interest of loving yourself and loving the people around you? Is that something that leads to answering the call, to returning to your heart's call, to the purpose that you have here? And it doesn't mean that, all of a sudden you're not a doctor anymore, or not a clerk, or not a police person. It means, is that allowing me to be the presence, the holy presence that I'm intended to be wherever I am, whether I'm seeing a patient or checking someone out at the store, or standing at assistance, or in the face of something that's scary. And so, wow, all of a sudden there was a new empowerment, and I sort of was like, yeah, I think this might be what I have come to this place to share.
Oh, there we go. And how do you teach people to practice and honor these three voices within them?
Yeah, everyone's on their own journey, of course.
Mm.
And so the steps are fairly simple in a way, and intellectual to start. One is just helping people recognize that the voices are there. And we've developed some programs, and one of the things that I put together when I put together this online course was, not just me talking for 20 minutes, but there's exercises and handouts and worksheets and activities and things to do to practice. So we have one that I really like about just hearing the voice, just asking yourself that question, the basic one. Yeah. What do I want to eat today? And hearing the voice. But then we go further from there. One of them is, if you're ready, look at yourself in the mirror and say, I love you. And then listen carefully. And then knowing that, almost all of us will have some sort of internal reaction to that. Being able to recognize where that's coming from, whether that's a past or a history or a do or a void in kind of where we are in the world, or whether there's something very instinctual, which we would presume might be lovely, but for many people is not. The idea of self-love or self-worth is a distant concept for many. Right. So, okay, without judgment. Listen. So step one is awareness, just awareness of, and so part of that is working through that one or more of these voices might be a little prickly, and might feel a little neglected, and might be a little scared, like in my example, and might lash out. And so how do we trust a voice that isn't telling us what we want to hear? And how do we nurture a voice? And that's what we go into then next. The reason the three work together so well is because they have complementary needs, and they support each other. So, for example, in the emotional space, if we know we're responding to something there, well, how will we respond? Well, that's a do thing. So that voice has to be present in, okay, you're feeling this way. What will we do about that? Because action dictates mood, as we know, both chemically and sociologically and psychologically. So those have to work together. But I'm angry, and what I want to do is lash out. Well, then we better bring in some higher wisdom that is within us all to say, okay, well, maybe what's gonna bring love to this situation? What's gonna bring atonement to this situation? What's gonna bring forgiveness to this situation? What's gonna be gratitude to this situation? So no matter what we're doing, you want to act that way? Well, let's run that past our inspiration filter. And see, and when the three come together, man, that feels great to try this because it's in alignment with my higher being. Boom, that's convergence. That's why I named it that, because there's that moment. And when those things agree, it's like, okay, and suddenly the energy of the divine and the human come together, and bam, off we go into changing the world or changing our lives, whatever we're trying to manifest that day.
Amen. So this is not about the quote unquote spiritual bypassing that we see that people are oftentimes talking about in these spaces. Yeah. And it's not toxic positivity, because that is another thing. Right. But this is really about integration.
It really is. And that's so among the steps of learning about how these different elements work together is also recognizing what it's like to be stuck in any one of them. And you've already said two of them, that sort of piousness, that spiritual bypassing. It's not up to me. It'll all be taken care of somewhere else. Thinking that, and I lived that for a long time. That, if I'm just really huge in that circle, then that should be the answer.
It'd be fine. That's right.
Yeah, right.
That's right.
But then you get a dysfunction like mine that says, when my dreams didn't come true, I must have done something wrong. I must not be spiritual enough. I must not, I must have made someone unhappy. It must be karma. Like the thing about bypassing all of that is it can be just as harmful, because you can be like, you be taking all the responsibility for that at the same time. Toxic positivity is another. I just want to feel good all the time. It's a problem, whatever. And it's completely bypassing or ignoring the gifts of anger or frustration or injustice or all of those things, which motivate us to get into that space. And then, of course, so many of us just live in that life of all I can do is get from here to there. All I can do is get from there to there. I'm just trying to make it work. And sometimes I'm not saying that isn't very, very real.
Yeah.
We live in a hectic place with high demands, getting tougher every day to make ends meet and do all of those things. So sometimes the answer isn't, oh, well, I have to change that circle completely. It's, I got to reinvent my life. Sometimes the answer is just remembering to put it back in balance. Okay, all I can do today is get to the grocery and get these chores done and make sure that my kids are fed. Well, okay, great. So let's integrate the love into that grocery store visit. Let's make certain that we are making the healthiest choices for those we care about. Let's put our purpose on earth, which is to serve other people, into whatever it is that comes across today. It's finding that balance is always the key, wherever we are. And it's not a light bulb, it takes practice, I guess is what I mean to say. There are plenty of times when I'm stuck somewhere. But now I have the tools to sort of create that balance again.
Absolutely. What do you want someone who is maybe in the middle of their own identity crisis to take from your story today?
I think that my faith is grounded in an unshakable belief for myself, and and I'll believe this on behalf of anyone who can't believe it for themselves right now, that we are spectacular, amazing, intentional beings placed here with one encompassing purpose. And that purpose is to be the loving presence for other people. And I think that for a long time, or for many people that I coach, there's a sense of, they start with the question, why? Why am I here? Why am I here? And I'm here to offer, we have the answer to why. We don't need to go down why. The why is, beloved child of God, you are here to be the presence of unconditional love for those who you come in contact with, which is by design. Yeah. That's the why. That's why you're here. So however you can work to embrace that, or remind yourself with a red string or a mantra or something on your dashboard, or just, that question, when it's answered, then allows us to get to the next phase, which is, okay, how? And that's where so much choice comes, where so much empowerment comes, where you begin to open the door to opportunity to what do I want to try today? Okay, you know what? I've been a teacher in a school, I'm making this up hypothetically, for so long, and that's great, but I always wanted to try to learn the piano, or I always wanted to try art, or I always wanted to try, just to learn about history or writing, or, what is it, that thing? And then see how you feel. Yeah, you know what? Turns out I hate writing. It's too slow, and I don't feel like I'm very creative. But man, I really did love learning about 18th century England when that was where I was going to put. Oh, okay, maybe I'll follow that a little bit. Just see, because there really isn't a mistake. There really isn't any way you can go wrong. There's only the opportunity to learn and expand. And with the why out of the way, dig into your how a little bit, and know that there'll be things that aren't for you. Great. Set those aside and try again.
Absolutely. Nothing harmful in trying a new thing.
No, and what a hard lesson for me, the budding perfectionist. Why do it if it's not going to be perfect in the end? I spent years stuck on my couch because I was afraid that I would fall on the ice or messed up. And of course I would have, but
absolutely, man, so many of us live that life.
The time I spend in my closet picking out a shirt and then go out in public and realize no one cares what shirt I'm wearing. It's just put on what makes you feel good and give it a go, and then go from there. That's the little things that we're really giving ourselves permission to trust ourselves rather than everyone else.
Yes.
Get in touch with how we feel about how things are going instead of what someone else might think about it.
Yeah.
This is a turning point.
It's so funny that I used to say a lot more often than I do now to clients, trust the voice in your own head.
Yeah.
Trust it. So now I'll be able to say, trust the voices
Right.
in your own head. But not everyone else's.
Yeah. Some people do. My brother says, I got a whole committee in there. Like, it's,
Yeah.
we got to sit down and have a meeting around a table. Like,
That's right. The Knights of the Round
I
Table.
tried to get it a little bit more precise than that, but I get it. And sometimes it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think back to many years ago, I had a client who, you mentioned having a neurodivergent child, and this person was neurodivergent, and how they would work out things. They would take it out of their mind and bring it into the 3D, and literally they would take all their stuffed animals and create a round table, and each stuffed animal could weigh in. On whatever it is they were percolating on.
Oh, so powerful.
Until they came up with the right answer for them.
Right. And that's really,
Fantastic.
that's such a humongous principle in so many people who do healing work, which is can you separate the truth of who you are from whatever's happening or whatever you're trying to figure out or whatever you're uncertain about? Because the truth of who you are is you got this. Like, you're capable and powerful, and you have access to the all-knowing. You have access to why would I try to figure out solutions when I know that the answer that comes from that higher power is going to be right every time? And so great, that just helps me move forward with a confidence, especially when the answer is it's going to be okay. And with that, and I think, more detail, please. And they're like, no, you're just gonna have to go with that for now. I'm like, all right.
Indeed. Oh, David, this conversation was a beautiful one. Thank you. Thank you. And I know that as the audience listens to it, they will be touched by something real. And they will be able to really hone in on what is that? Because the courage that it takes to name where they're feeling stuck or the drift that may be happening in their lives, to do the hard work, the inner work, and then turn around and to light the way for someone else the way you've done. That's open to everyone. We can all do that, right?
Yeah.
To provide that unconditional love means you do the work, and then you turn around and you help someone else do the work, and they do the same, and they do the same.
That's right. Yeah. So many of us are wondering, where will the turning point be in our world and where we live, and on a more macro scale than just our own lives. But what you just described is the answer. We will do the work for ourselves, and the result of that work will be we will want to help others do it as well. And so I guess that's the domino you and I are trying to tip over.
That's right. There we go. Thank you. And where can people find you?
Oh, the easiest way is the website, which is davidallenbrown.com. Maybe it's in your show notes. Just the only trick, notice the middle name spelling, ALAN. But you can track me down there. It has my programs on it, but also just, an email link. Send me a message. Tell me what's going on. We can chat. Not everything is for profit. It's just building a community and helping people be where they are and talk about what's going on with them. So davidallenbrown.com is the easiest place to start.
Perfect. And it will definitely be in the show notes for sure. Okay. Thank you so much. And to my audience, I hope that this episode met you somewhere deep within. And I want to invite you to take the next step to investigate that. So check out David's website, reach out to him, and begin to do that work if that's what resonates for you. The work of becoming who you truly are supposed to be does not have to happen alone, nor should it happen alone. So until next time, keep doing that inner work, and I'll see you back here in the expansion room. Thanks for watching. If you are ready to move beyond survival into greater alignment, greater clarity, and transformation, I'd love to support you. An alignment call is where that journey begins. Take a moment, click the link in the show notes, and schedule your alignment call with me, and let's explore what's possible for you together.